All right, let's talk about orchids. Specifically, let's talk about those wild, silvery green roots that seem to have a mind of their own. You know the ones. If you've ever stared at your beautiful orchid and just thought, what in the world am I supposed to do with these, then you are absolutely in the right place. We are going to unravel the mystery of these incredible and honestly kind of strange-looking roots.
I mean, let's be real for a second. You've got this plant with these absolutely perfect, elegant, stunning flowers. And then you look down, and it's just this chaotic tangle of what looks like silver-green snakes trying to escape the pot. It just feels wrong, right? It's messy, it's untidy, and it seems totally out of place with the perfection up top.
And seeing that chaos triggers an almost universal impulse in all of us, doesn't it? That little voice in your head starts screaming, tidy it up, cut them off, shove them back in the pot, and make it look neat. And you know what? That's a perfectly logical thought. But I'm here to tell you it's also a fatal one.
No, I'm not exaggerating. Trying to tidy up those roots is one of the fastest ways to kill your prize orchid. So the big question is, why? Well, that's what we're here to explain. We're going to dive into the biological masterpiece that is the aerial root, and I promise, by the end, you'll see why this apparent mess is actually a sign of a happy, thriving plant.
To really get this, we can't just look at the plant sitting on your windowsill. We've got to rewind the clock. I'm talking millions of years back into the orchid's family tree. Because the roots you're looking at today are the result of an incredible, high-stakes evolutionary gamble that paid off in a huge way. So picture this. Millions of years ago, orchids are stuck down on the dark, crowded forest floor, constantly battling for just little scraps of sunlight. To survive, they made a radical move. They went up, way up. They became what we call epiphytes, which just means plants that live on other plants, climbing high into the tree canopy. Now, they got all the sunlight they could ever want, but they had to give up soil. Think about that. No more stability, no more constant water, no more easy nutrients. They had to completely reinvent the very idea of a root.
And the secret to this brilliant reinvention all comes down to one amazing feature, something called the velamen radicum. That silvery, papery coating you see on the outside, that's it. But here's the cool part. That's not the actual root. It's more like a high-tech sleeve, a special sheath that covers the true living green root core inside. And this sleeve is an absolute marvel of natural engineering.
This velamen is a triple threat. First, it's a super sponge. It's made of dead cells that instantly wick moisture out of the air from even the slightest bit of humidity or rain. Second, it's a built-in sun shield, protecting that delicate living core from getting fried by UV rays. And third, it's an anchor. It actually secretes a kind of biological superglue that literally fuses the orchid to the tree's bark, letting it hang on for dear life during a tropical storm.
But anchoring and drinking? Well, that's just the beginning. The real reason you can't bury these roots is because they're performing other critical jobs that soil-based roots simply can't. You shouldn't even think of them as just roots. They are multi-purpose survival organs.
Okay, surprise number one. They photosynthesize. Ever notice how when an aerial root gets wet, it turns bright green? That's because the velamen becomes see-through, showing the chlorophyll-packed core inside. That's right, these roots are literally making energy from light. They're a backup power source for the plant if its leaves get damaged. So burying them, it's like putting a blindfold on your orchid. Surprise number two, and this one is huge, they breathe. They are designed for open air, where they are constantly exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. They actually need the same 21% oxygen that's in the atmosphere around us. So, in a very real way, these roots are the plant's lungs.
And finally, they are expert scavengers. Up in the canopy, there's no nutrient-rich soil, so these roots evolved to absorb tiny trace minerals directly from rainwater that washes down tree trunks. This process is called canopy wash, and it picks up everything from bird droppings to decaying leaves. They are literally pulling a meal right out of thin air.
So, let's recap. We've got roots that are solar-powered, air-breathing, nutrient-scavenging superheroes. Now does it start to become crystal clear why trying to force them into a dark, damp pot is such a total disaster? It is a complete biological mismatch. And here is the core conflict you have to understand. An aerial root is built for the high-oxygen world of open air. But a root that grows down into the pot from the very start develops a totally different cellular structure, one that's adapted for the low-oxygen, damp environment of the potting mix. And here's the kicker. An aerial root can't change its mind. Once it's built for the air, it's physically incapable of adapting to life underground.
So let's walk through the tragic, step-by-step process of what happens when you bury one. First, you cut off its oxygen supply. This is a state called hypoxia. The cells can't breathe, so they suffocate and die. Now, you have this dead tissue sitting in a damp pot, which is basically a dinner bell for bacteria and fungi. They start feasting, and that's the beginning of root rot. And that rot doesn't just stay put. It travels right up the root's core, straight to the base of the plant, killing your orchid from the inside out.
So, the crucial point is this. We need to stop fighting our orchid's nature and start working with it. Embracing that wild look isn't just about accepting a mess. It's about practicing smart, scientifically informed care that lets your plant truly thrive.
And the good news is, proper care is actually pretty simple. First, mist those aerial roots every few days. They'll thank you for it. If they look a little shriveled, the air is just too dry, so maybe think about a humidifier. When you water, try the bucket method. Just submerge the whole pot and root system for about 15 minutes, then let it drain completely. And most importantly, just accept the wildness. Roots exploring everywhere are a sign of a happy, vigorous orchid that's loving its environment.
So the next time you look at your orchid, I want you to see it differently. Don't see an untidy mess that needs to be fixed. See the incredible story of evolution. See a breathing apparatus, a backup solar panel, and a high-tech moisture sensor all rolled into one. Your orchid isn't messy. It's a masterpiece of survival. And that leaves you with a question, doesn't it? How many other imperfections in nature are actually brilliant solutions in disguise?